I didn't want to start with the Keffals thing first, but I think I will start with it because it's going to be a miasma that is just hanging over everything the entire time if I don't. I guess, to start out, is Keffals bad? The answer I'm going to give you is going to be very unsatisfactory. It's, I don't know. That is what the conclusion of this is going to be, no matter what. It's going to be, I don't know. Because there is a lot of stuff that goes into who Keffals is and the stuff she does on the internet. Now, I can say my familiarization with Keffals is we were in a group chat together for a brief amount of time before she was no longer in that group chat. I was then in her Discord for a brief amount of time as a friend of Keffals because one of her moderators gave me that tag whenever I joined her Discord, and I have since left her Discord. Now, that doesn't mean anything unique, as I have left every Discord for the most part that I was originally in, save for a handful of creator Discords and a few ran by my close friends. I used to be a part of every single Discord of every creator so that I could be there in case somebody was like, hey, there's this Suris thing, and we want to bring Suris in to talk about it. It was just super convenient to be like, oh, I'm in Fosh's Discord, or Hunter Avalon's Discord, or Tipster's Discord. I can just hop into the VC. Super easy, super simple. Eventually, I got to the point where the amount of Discords I was in was very overwhelming. So I've basically left almost every single one of them solely to retain some measure of my sanity. And then I promptly joined 2 more creator Discords because I was doing Magic the Gathering nights with them. So apparently this plan hasn't worked out very well, but there is basically the maximum amount of my involvement that I've had. Aside from the one time that I was reviewing a debate that she had, I think with Cybersmith, and that's the human pet guy who also started commenting on my videos, and I don't think I've ever actually responded to him. And anytime his name is said into the void, it's like, it's kind of like summoning a demon, where like you know his true name, so he just suddenly appears. It's a very, very weird situation. But anyway, so I know that recently Some Ordinary Gamers, Mudahar, has released a video about Keffals. I have not watched the video because, I'm gonna be honest, there have been other people who he has done content on where he has been knee-jerky and reactive and hasn't actually given the full picture of a story. And oftentimes it's because he doesn't have the full picture of a story, but he also won't ever admit to not having the full picture of a story when he gives his information. So that kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't tend to watch a lot of drama content, and I do find a lot of his content to fall kind of in that realm these days. Grab a content creator and talk about all of the things that should lead to their downfall. And then we forget about what he did and said about 3 or 4 weeks after he did so, unless he reminds us about it on Twitter or something. So I don't care too much for his content. I also know that when it comes time for me to review his video, which I do plan on doing when I've got a little more time ahead of me, and that day is not today. But when I do end up reviewing his video, I'm going to have to play a video game while I'm doing so, because it's an hour-and-a-half long, and I've already seen from other friends of mine like Miss Peep, who have done video breakdowns of his content. Some of the stuff he says in his video has nothing to do with Keffals and is also just flat out wrong. Like, apparently he has an entire section in there against DIY HRT, and like, yeah, I'd love to be in the world that's against DIY HRT, but I can't be because we also deny HRT to people who need it, so it's not like making a pipe bomb in your house or some shit. Oy. Red Joker says, also, the completionist video made me doubt the research that had been done by Carl Jobst. And the thing is with the completionist video is there's definitely stuff that is behind the scenes on that he doesn't know about, and that Carl doesn't know about, and that they can't have known about. but they will never admit to that being a blank area in their logic. They will just go, ah, yes, completionist, bad, evil, terrible, fraudster, and that will be the end of it. And ideally, at some point, that information will be able to be more readily available to publics, but that's not mine to divulge. That's people who are involved in that situation, and for fuck's sake, actually know the guy to divulge. For me, the Keffals situation comes down to a couple things. There are a few things that had been told to me at the time in confidence, but I've now been told I'm allowed to say, and if these are parts of the Mutahar video, then I guess I will cover those later as well. But there was a moment where a friend of mine who used to work for Keffals divulged to me that apparently Keffals wanted to take down Jack Saint. And not for any legitimate reason, just, like, wanted to basically make him seem like a bad person through really manipulative video editing. Like, that was basically it. That kind of stuff rubs me the wrong way, and it was enough for me to realize that I didn't want to get any closer to Keffals when there was even a chance of that happening in the first place. I also have direct info. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and say it's Cherry. Cherry used to do editing for Keffals, and this entire time I was taking some moments because I wanted to very, very quickly reread our conversation to make sure that they'd personally given me their blessing to give that information out. And yeah, there's a bit here that says you have my personal blessing to leak anything I've told you. So I'm going to very quickly find the exact words that Sherry used. Ah, here we are. The exact words Sherry used on this one were, one night she called me and told me to secretly record a Discord call that she had with Jack Saint, and that she wanted me to edit the recording to take him out of context and make him say things that he did not say in order to make the call look like he is abusing her and going mask off. She was on cocaine when she asked me to try to do this for her. Obviously, I did not do it, and I tried to keep in mind that she was in an altered state of mind. But if she doxes me and tries to ruin my life or something, I will leak this in return. So that's been part of my perspective on Keffals early on. If anybody wants to know why I never did any, like, I raided Keffals 1 or 2 times and then didn't ever do anything with her content creation wise, it's because that's the information that I was getting in the background. And now that I have permission to leak that information, I'm doing that. So that's the bad thing. So when you have content creators, right? When content creators have dirt, like stuff like this, typically one of the things that prevents that dirt from going out to the public is a wall of consent. But the minute that consent is given, well, you know. And I know that Keffals and Xanderhall had some kind of beef, but I don't know nor care about that beef. I don't talk that actively with Xanderhall anymore, so I don't have any perspective from him, but I do talk with Xanderhall's old editor, Cherry, who also did editing work for Keffals. So that's the perspective I'm going to be going in with. Now, there is one other person's perspective I want to grab for this. That is not somebody who I'm particularly close to, but it is somebody that I am involved in some group chats with, and I do think is at least a little more trustworthy than some other voices that might be talking about this. But let me go ahead and bring up a very, very interesting thread that came out on the internet recently. This one is from Rox, or Roxvia. I'm terrible at this. Onyx is asking, what the fuck did I just walk into? So there is a leftist content creator named Keffals who has a history, and some of that history is positive. For a while, they got Kiwi Farms taken down, and there are some other things that they have done that have been positive, but their time online has basically been rife with drama of one kind or another, and she was involved in doing a fundraiser for herself for the sum of $100,000 that was supposed to go towards a legal fight to make sure that trans people would be better taken care of in Canada or something like that. That didn't seem to happen. But we're going to go through the thread and see where things are. Also, Anubian asked no fan art. I don't want to put fan art on this kind of video. I already really dislike doing content on other creators in leftist spaces. I really do not like doing that kind of content to begin with. Because it feels scummy, it feels like drama, it feels like a huge issue, but apparently behind the scenes she's been trying to do that same stuff to other creators, like Jack Saint. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it here. And there are some other times where I've criticized other creators in the leftist spaces, but I try not to do it too terribly often because, honestly, you have to be really bad for me to look at you and go, oh, yeah, no, you're not the lesser of two evils between a Ben Shapiro or a Matt Walsh. But if you're going to slander other content creators and fabricate lies about them and tell your editor to make those lies more believable, you know... Anyway, let's go ahead and go into Rox's thread as a guidepost, because... Anywho. As she says here, it's time to talk about the Keffals GoFundMe situation. Below, I will prove that Keffals misled donors and spent $100,000 dishonestly. Her legal case with Human Rights Tribunal in Ontario is dead, and Keffals has been lying about its status to avoid questions related to the money. Jasta says, I'd say worse than Matt Walsh takes effort. Worse than Matt Walsh takes effort. And I'm not going to say Keffals is worse than a Walsh or a Shapiro. These are people that willingly sell everybody out at a moment's notice. But, so apparently this is a screenshot from, I believe, a group chat where Keffals says, if anyone ever finds out how I spent the GoFundMe, I am definitely getting canceled. Anyway, sorry for venting. I'm going to go, I'm still heading to Dingle. All right, so I guess... since I'm also running a fundraiser, this is my time to be wholly transparent with all of you about what that money's been spent on. I no longer have a Micro Center credit from computer repairs that I need to spend money on, thanks to this. I no longer have to buy a water heater, thanks to the marathon so far. A few $100s of my PayPal credit has been paid for, thanks to this. And a decent chunk of my city credit that we've been using has been spent on this. Also, some of it's been spent on groceries. And maybe $40 of it was magic cards, but that one I'm uncertain of because I don't remember if I used my bank card for that or not. So technically, if I used my PayPal card, some of the money from this may have gone to magic cards, but at that point, I'm actually kind of uncertain. So there we go. Full transparency. Now I feel better. The monkey is off my shoulder. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That's all shit you guys already knew. And you also know how much money I make, because I publicly disclose that on every single thing that I do as well. That's, interesting. Interesting. And anyway, these are my earnings on YouTube. It's at $1,000.32, or $1,032. That's more than it was the last time we've had this conversation, literally last week. You know, that's better than it has been. That's cool. I'm happy about that. And what is it sitting at on Twitch? Let's see here. Twitch, 347 subscribers, and I make $2.50 per each one of those. I think that's probably a violation of Twitch TOS for me to say that. But their partner agreement is basically horseshit, and we don't actually get anything more than affiliates, so fuck you, Jeff Bezos. So, yay! Okay, cool. And then my Patreon numbers, you can literally click my Patreon link, and you can see what those look like as well, because that is something that everybody gets access to all the time, and I refuse to hide. There we go. Okay, cool. We have officially reached better transparency levels than Keffals in this current situation. We did it. I also realized I've pulled that away. So there we go. I've done my my virtue signaling for the day. Excellent. Red Joker says, any more transparency and you'll become slime Suris. Any more transparency and artists will be using me to practice their transparency skills with colored pencils, because that happened last time. I'm not trying to say I'm a saint or transparent. I've definitely misspent money before. Like, this is not me trying to say that. But, let's see here. She says that she's been investigating the Keffals GoFundMe for some time, and now that a few pieces of evidence are public knowledge, she can share what she's found. Again, as I tried to say earlier, one of the things when it comes to creator dirt is oftentimes that dirt only ever comes out when a wall of, or when two situations. When a wall of consent has been lifted, or when somebody's being a dick shit. Didn't have to retire like Shuri's evil, but he's currently toxifying, is he currently toxifying gamer streaming? Who's Hef? Doritos Deb says, I don't know about that. Transparency needs more. What's your social? Oh, right. Hold on. 56869 and 153.2. I don't know. That's probably close enough. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Said, Jess, I don't know who you're talking about. I have no idea what you're even talking about at all right now. Who's Jeff? I don't understand. Jeff Bezos. Oh, that. Fuck, I don't know. I don't keep up with the insanely rich. But I've also been told that I have to swap models over to the slime model for literal transparency reasons. So I guess I'm here now. Transparent. Not tall enough. Fucking not tall enough. I guess I need a table. Where's a table? There's a table, and it's not tall enough. There we go. This is... Damn it! It's not tall enough with me right there. Fuck it. Table go there. Slime go here. And we're just gonna have to move myself a little higher for each one of these. There we go. We did it. We did it, everybody. God fucking damn it! Too short! Anyway. Okay. Anyway. So, she says, TLDR, the above screenshot is real, and the legal case the GoFundMe was supposed to go towards likely isn't happening. Strap in, this is a doozy. So, just a quick thing. I wonder what levels of guilt one would have. So, I felt a lot of guilt when I wasn't able to replace my heater with the $1,500 that everybody raised up initially in my stream, because the person who was supposed to be doing the replacing of my heating system was a friend, but he was a very conservative friend and part of our D&D group, and we literally had a falling out the week afterwards. That felt like shit. That felt horrible. And I didn't like telling my stream that, oh, I'm sorry, we can't replace the heater like we were supposed to, because the guy who was going to be doing it for the budget we had is no longer doing it. Yeah, that made me feel like garbage. I feel like this would make me feel way worse if I did this. I feel like this would make me feel way worse if I was like, hey guys, I have $100,000 that's going to go to these things. And then there's a margin of error where you buy yourself extra gasoline in your car or some nicer groceries. But this feels maybe a bit more. Says, first, what exactly did she say she would spend the GoFundMe money on? According to the GoFundMe description, $20,000 for recouping losses and moving to a safe location. The remaining $80,000 for a legal fund. It is important to take this at face value, since it's what she was saying directly to people donating. Okay. Moving in legal fund of the $20,000, there was a $20,000 goal. The original moving goal was met, but the hotel I was staying at while looking for a new place to live was doxxed. I'm now in hiding. I'm keeping the GoFundMe up, but all donations are going directly to my legal fund, which I will be using to seek justice. This is from the Keffals GoFundMe itself. Okay. On Twitter, Keffals has been less clear about how money was allocated, but here is one figure I want to call attention to. This is shortly after the GoFundMe launched, and she gives a lower estimate of $60,000 for a trial, and that most of the GoFundMe is going towards legal fees. There is the particular tweets in regards to that, where Keffals says, "Woke up and I'm seeing tender queers mad at me for saying mean words, and people mocking me for raising money for legal fees, and a move after I could have died because I got doxxed, and fascists weaponized the police to murder me. I was a victim of a hate crime. Grow up." All right. Pause that right there. There's going to be people who use this as justification for Keffals being doxxed. Those people should probably die. I'm dead serious. If you are the type of person that thinks that another person deserves to have a bunch of physical harm happen to them, then it is likely a good idea to accept that the same measures could one day be taken against you. So, if you decide that somebody should be violently attacked, then, I don't know, maybe one day you might get violently attacked, and that would be bad. If you're hoping somebody gets doxxed, boy howdy, it would suck if that shoe was on the other foot. Now, there is a difference between recognizing that, oh, somebody who is a terrible person who needs to be stopped might get stopped. But this is not that situation. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, the terrible thing that Keffals has done to this point, again, I haven't seen the Mutahar video, and I don't remember if timeline-wise this is before or after the Jack Saint situation specifically, because I was never given a timeline for that. But there is not a point at which Keffals deserves to be doxxed or deserves to be physically harmed. If anything, the only thing that should happen where Keffals is concerned is she should be willing to come out publicly and say, hey, the money was mismanaged or the money went in these particular areas, and then address any other dramas that may have been brought up that could be an issue. And just be transparent. Hey, these are the things that I did, and they were not good. And I'm going to work on being a better person. Again, this is the same shit when we were looking at the situation with the attempted suicide, or not really, of James Somerton. That whole situation, again, same idea. Accept that you've done harm, accept that you've done something bad, and then move on. Like, that's a thing that you can do. Accept that you've done something wrong, come clean to your audience. Many of them will leave. Many of them will choose never to support you again. And if that happens, then that sucks. But it's better to be honest about that situation. And even if you're not, I still don't think you deserve to be doxxed. I don't. Keffals says a 3-day civil trial in Canada is $60,000. The vast majority of the money I raised is going to pay lawyers, and the rest is to move and pay me and my staff because I can't work until I'm safe. Making a trauma victim explain this a week after it happened is fucked up. In order to ask for help, I had to go public and confirm my home address to the people who want me dead. The crowd that thinks me quote tweeting them is violence, but laughs at me for facing actual police violence is not getting any sympathy. I do not care how my fans treat them. So far, I'm actually in agreement here with Keffals. If somebody decided that they wanted to harm me and I had choice words to say about them, how's it going, Liskaday? If I had any choice words to say about them on the internet and somebody decided to be, I don't know, a dick to me about it, I would probably have choice words for them too, and I wouldn't give a shit. But let's go ahead and see further. She also reiterates that the non-legal portion of the fund is going towards moving and recouping her losses, but in my investigations, I found out that she actually had no concrete losses to recoup. Keffals was swatted on August 5th. She later said that all of her devices were returned 3 days later. And let's do...
Yeah, that was really nice. I eventually got my stuff back in like 3 days and got an apology from the chief of police.
That's nice.
So... yeah, that was really nice. Not nice how they responded to the situation, but I'll take it.
So what Keffals has said about the doxing situation is that she had a literal gun aimed at her face due to the swatting attempt. So I wholly understand not being comfortable with the police in the first place there. Rock says this is corroborated by a property bag shown in a CBC story about Keffals' swatting, the label of which clearly shows that Keffals' desktop tower was returned to her later on August 8th, which is before Keffals launched her GoFundMe on August 9th. So that's an interesting one. I wonder what losses she's talking about there. What losses are you needing to actually manage? I don't think I've ever spent $100,000 in, like, a single year. I'm just trying to figure out how that money disappears. Now, granted, I know how that money disappears because all it takes is for you to have a couple of expensive hobbies or be really, really drunk one day, and then suddenly that money can disappear. I get that. Jessa says probably property damage from a SWAT team coming in. I don't think she owned a house, though. Regardless, I'm not going to say that, you know, asking your fans for donations and doing so in any variety is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, hell, there's a timer above my head, and I have not been able to adhere to the timer the way I'm supposed to for the last 3 weeks. So I'm really not the one to judge here. Katini says, even if you rent, you have to pay for repairs. I'm not sure how it works in Canada with their legal system, but I can understand very, very quickly that having. But, like, I don't know. I'm not going to speak on something that I don't know, but I know that in my renting situations, I never had to pay for repairs or maintenance on anything. I just had to basically tell the front office what happened, and they would come in and fix it. Like, that's how things worked when I was renting. But I don't know if that's going to be the case here. But again, this is a blind spot for me. I'm unaware. Rock says, additionally, a former editor of Keffals shared with me a copy of Keffals' financials from May 2022 to July 2023, in which we can clearly see that in August of 2022, Keffals earned over $13,000, which is actually higher than the surrounding months. Wait. These revenue numbers, Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Gattini says not everybody has rental insurance. Yeah, I'm uncertain of the situation there. What I'm looking at now, though, is scary. Let's open this image in a new tab. Let's look at the revenue that was made here. So her Patreon numbers look about like mine. Well, I've never seen 3,000 from Patreon. So I don't know. These first 2 months and these last 2 months look closer to mine. One time the May revenue was true. But there's a couple things that I need to note here that are weird. So, for one, why is the Patreon amount changing so much? Mine fluctuates a little bit, but people don't drop off that much or that quickly. Weird. Anyway, the Twitch revenue stream... 6,640, 4,823, 2,342, and then it kind of peters out near the end. But then you look at the amount she was making from her White Leaf site. $5,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $3,500 a month, $2,000 a month, $6,500 a month. 6,252 a month, 3,031 a month. So if we're looking at her actual monthly revenue here, $13,077 in August, 13,000 again, 12,932 the next month. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's insane. That is insane. I have never made that much money on anything. Okay, so my best month on YouTube ever was $4,000. And back then my Patreon was making about 900, 950, maybe 1,000 depending. And then Twitch was anywhere between 300 and 400 around that time. During that time, I was able to afford medications for my partner at the time, her health insurance. I wasn't able to afford my own health insurance, but I was able to afford car repairs. I was able to afford paying all of my artists really, for a lot of things. I was able to afford having an editor. I was able to afford all kinds of shit with that much money. I felt like I was in a very good position with that much money until, you know, anything would happen, and then I would panic because the money was already spent, because I was like, oh my god, models for channel, that's good, assets for channel, that's good, thumbnails from thumbnail artists, editing from editing for I think that I had a Sherry around that time. Anyway, point is, back when I had the ability to sneeze at numbers that looked even remotely like this, I felt like I was writing perfectly comfortably at that point. And Keffals seems to be making about 3 times that much. That's a bit terrifying. Why do you need a... So I understand still wanting the $100,000 thing for legal expenses, but now we run into a problem of holding on and figuring out, oh, where'd that money go? Because obviously, if with these numbers, even with taxes eating, what, 33, 34% of that, that's still a perfectly livable wage. A comfortable livable wage at that. If you're at these numbers, what's the money from the GoFundMe even going towards? What possible living expense are you draining? Razor says about 25%. I would assume a little higher because she was in Canada. Anubian says, I'm assuming Keffals owns her home and isn't renting. I think now. Depraved Ambient says, well, cocaine is really expensive. Allegrant says, I do software engineering and those numbers look familiar. God, I need a different job. Fucking balls. Anyway. Rock says, to reiterate, Keffals did not have any losses to recuperate. She wouldn't see a decline in revenue until March of 2023 after she went to rehab. Keffals also very likely didn't use the $20,000 to relocate to Ireland and instead paid at least a significant portion of that out of pocket. I don't know where that information is coming from, so we'll take that one with a grain of salt. By 9/4/22, so September 4th, I think that's September, Keffals was established enough in Ireland for publications to write about it. The next day, she would have an infamous conversation with Winter, where, asked if she used the GoFundMe for a private investigator, she strongly implied she hadn't spent any of it yet, so... Keffals says, Winter, I don't know how much money you think I make, but I was going to make 6 figures this year before the GoFundMe happened. Winter says that wasn't the question. Quit flexing on minorities, Whitey. Keffals says, I don't mean to. I'm sorry. You brought up money for some reason. Winter says, did you pay the private investigator out of the GoFundMe money? And Keffals says, no. The GoFundMe money is currently in savings until I need to use it. Okay. So the GoFundMe did mostly go to moving from Canada to Ireland because doxing in threads on her live. I guess we will see. We are looking into that as we go. Rock says, in this exchange, you can also see how she could afford this. She was on track to make 6 figures in 2022, which is corroborated by her financials. This adds context up to this point that she's never mentioned. She's fucking rich, or at least she was at the time. I don't know if I would consider that fucking rich. I would consider making 100,000 to be very, very comfortable. Like, ridiculously comfortable. But I don't know if I would use the word rich. I know people who make 6 figures a year, and I don't think I would use the word rich to describe most of them. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to make 6 figures a year. I don't see that fucking happening. But, no, and I've... Jesus Christ. So this is the one thing I don't actually agree with. That's not rich. That is more wealthy than most people. But that would not be rich. I have one friend who is rich. Like, legitimately has over $1 million. Can't actually use any of it, though. Not really. So, continuing on. This adds gravity to the situation, given that trans people are forced to beg for scraps online. So an already wealthy woman using a GoFundMe for an important cause instead of using it to double her income isn't just evil, it's an insult to every trans person struggling to survive. I'd say that's a bit hyperbolic, but I can understand the sentiment very, very well. Just before I get away from myself, here's a link to the original exchange with Winter, which shows that it occurred on September 5th. I hate the Twitter character count. Anyways, while it seems that Keffals didn't need the GoFundMe to get to Ireland, she wouldn't settle down until October. This brings us to the screenshots taken by a former editor of Keffals on November 30th, 2022, where Keffals says all of the GoFundMe had either been spent or earmarked. And this is the one that had it before. Feels really bad watching the GoFundMe money deplete. The rest will cover a year rent and my psych fees if I talk to a psychologist once a week for the next 11 months. Ellen tried to comfort me, reminding me it was an emergency fund. Ellen's right, but I definitely understand the feeling. Whenever I've had a windfall that I wasn't originally planning on having, I still felt bad when it was depleted. She then says, I keep trying to think of how it depleted so fast, and it's just so many little things, travel and replacing furniture, and helping my friends out, and buying new streaming gear and clothes. And then, if anyone ever finds out how I spent the GoFundMe, I'm definitely getting canceled. Anyway, sorry for venting. I'm going to go still heading to the dingle. Okay, so there were conversations with other people about the 100,000 being spent, and I can at the very least empathize with the it's a bunch of little things. So like when I get paid, my largest payment is from Patreon now. It used to be YouTube, but now that that number has dropped as low as it has, it is Patreon. And I always feel weird when I'm out of money by the time my Twitch paycheck comes in, because I never understand how it happened. It never makes any sense to me. And then I look at my expenses and I go, oh, right, we did have to buy a new piece of equipment today. Oh, we did have to buy that today. Oh, we did end up doing a grocery restock that we had been putting off for an inordinate amount of time. Oh, we did end up double paying on a bill this time because we had to not pay that bill last month. Like, I get it. It is death by 1,000 charges. So I understand where they're coming from there. I just feel like maybe that information should have been made a little more available to people. Like, hey, the GoFundMe money's original purpose was this. Red Joker says, I mean, in your case, it's mostly stuff you need. Yeah, house repair stuff for the most part lately. And then stuff to actually get our yard managed. Do you know what it's like to not have a reason to manage your yard for years and then suddenly you're faced with, I have to? It's like buying a new chainsaw and weed whacker you didn't know you needed until you've been told things can't get to your driveway because there's too many branches. Necrochild says, my husband calls it nickel and diming us to death. Yep. Keffals in just 4 months potentially spent, potentially just 2 months, if it really hadn't been touched by September, blew through $100,000 on traveling, furniture, friends, new stream gear that she did not need since she got her devices back after 3 days, and clothes. I said, wait, you have to manage a yard? Yes, Jump Point. I have to, because I live in the woods. Dorito says, I'm on 3 acres, I understand. And Dorito, you've been down my driveway. The branches weren't in the driveway the last time you were here. They are now. But continuing on, the rest was for a year of rent and therapy, neither of which was outlined in the GoFundMe. I can even tell you how much she spent on rent. She would later tweet on her private that her rent during this time was $2,400 a month, which is 28, yeah, so she didn't own her house then. That was there. Let's see here. She said, I love living in Ireland so much. I can barely understand what people are saying, but it's so pretty, and my rent has gone from $2,400 a month to $400. So I am building some savings. I'm saving up to buy a house, which is not a sentence I've ever previously stated, because that was not possible. So $2,400 a month for rent is insane. Now, that's Canadian dollars, so that's closer to like $1,900 or $2,000 a month here, but that's still an insane amount to spend. For clarity, yes, she says her rent in Ireland is $400 a month, but she would not move to Ireland until June 2023 when her visa was approved. Before that, she was living in Canada, which is when she allocated a year of rent. Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. You said your rent will be $1,950 a month starting in July? Jesus fucking Christ. When I was living in Marietta, my rent was $950. But I also know that the rent in Cartersville is now minimum like 1,000 something. So those numbers have gone up a lot for stupid reasons. Oi, oi, oi. Remember, she said and reiterated that most of the GoFundMe would go towards a legal case and a civil case, which still has not happened, which would cost a minimum of $60,000 for 3 days. And yet by the end of 2022, the money she said was for the legal fund was gone or allocated elsewhere. Again, I'm trying to figure out where that money would have gone, or what it, like, why it would have disappeared in the first place. Again, if you're making over over 100,000 a year, where's that extra money need to go? As I followed the progression of Keffals' legal case, her public and private plans constantly shifted and often didn't align. As a result, nailing down a robust timeline of what she was saying publicly and privately regarding her legal case proved convoluted and unhelpful. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and assume the most recent plans, a complaint filed with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario in April 10th, and remember that date because it's important, are consistent with her initial GoFundMe for a legal case. Okay, fair enough. Her video wasn't uploaded until May, but various press outlets announced it around April 21st using a press kit Keffals put together. Almost all of them, including a clause like this, saying there was no information as to when the claim would be heard. Said Miss Sorrenti is concerned not only for herself, but for all transgender individuals who may interface with LPS or who may be experiencing or will experience the same or similar discriminatory treatment. Miss Sorrenti believes many transgender individuals are not able to stand up to LPS for discrimination, for fear of reprisal, and because of the already overwhelmed stress and anxiety felt as a result of mistreatment by LPS. No information is available on when the claim will be heard. Okay, cool. Thankfully, the process for filing a claim is publicly available. Once the HRTO receives an application, the applicant receives a letter either informing them of the app that the app needs work or is good and has been sent to the other party, i.e. the London police. Okay. After some back and forth, the parties convene before the HRTO to mandate and try to reach a settlement. Failure to do that will lead to a hearing. You might think that this process has an open-ended time frame, so it'd be expected that we haven't heard anything. But that's wrong. Unfortunately for Keffals, the HRTO sets a deadline of 1 year after the initial filing for the hearing, should one occur. Keffals' application was applied on April 10th. The deadline for a hearing was a month ago, so there has been no evidence of a hearing. Oh. So if I were to give benefit of the doubt here, I would assume that she didn't know that it would take, that after a year there was a drop-off. But if I don't give benefit of the doubt, then putting the application in a year afterwards would basically erase the need for a legal fund. Anubian says, I'm confused. Basically, there is an application that has to be submitted when you have a grievance, like the one Keffals had. And if that application is not submitted within a year of the event occurring, then it cannot be heard. It just gets dropped off. So in Keffals' situation, she announced that she would be filing the grievance publicly and then never actually filed the grievance. And then waited 1 month after the year mark, so a year and a month, before filing the grievance. As I said, a steel man of that situation, giving benefit of the doubt, would be that she did not know that there was a time and everything else in life got her swept up, and then she filed the grievance later. Otherwise, it looks deliberate. That would be kind of fucked if that was deliberate, where you deliberately wait until you wouldn't have to spend the legal funds that were saved up by the GoFundMe. Typically an easy way, so that's common knowledge if you have dealings with the police. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that, personally. But that's just me. But this is why, and I'll go ahead and say this for any content creators who run a GoFundMe or a PayPal pools or anything, to get things for yourself that need to be gotten, whether that is stuff that you need for the house, or whether that is a GoFundMe because stuff has broken, or a situation like this. It's a good idea, generally speaking, to not take the money out of the account that it is in until that money is going to be spent for the thing you have. As an example, as of right now, if I look at my PayPal, I have an amount of money, and I'm trying to crop this so that I don't show people's real-life names in here. But as of right now, my PayPal balance is this much. It's nice, and it can afford me some pizzas at Little Caesars. And the GoFundMe, because money has already been... not the GoFundMe, but the PayPal pool. Because money has already been spent from the PayPal pool into various things like the heater and the credit that has that was needed to be done. I can tell you that that PayPal pool has this much in it. There we go. This much in it. And I'm not withdrawing that until I am ready to go ahead and pay that. I'm going to withdraw a little bit of it before the end of the night, and that's going to pay some PayPal credit. Of which, and again, I can just show you guys these because I don't fucking mind, of which there is that I have to pay on the PayPal credit. That's not the city credit, which is the other one that I still have to pay off as well, but I'm on the PayPal page, so here we are. A good rule of thumb is do not take the money out of that account unless it is immediately going to be spent on the thing that you told your audience that the money was going to be spent on. Red Joker says, yikes, nearly 50% utilization. Yeah, wait till you see the city credit. The utilization on that one's closer to like 80%. That's what happens when your standards of living are based on the income that you made 2 years prior, and you make about a quarter of that income now. That's what happens. Hey, Negosaurus, how often are you asking for a limit increase? I don't ask for a limit increase. Because I don't want a limit increase. I already with the amount of credit that I have right now, I already have issues using it because I will make a mistake financially and then go, oh, shit, I still need to pay this particular bill, or, oh, we still need milk, and then I will use the credit card to take care of that. I don't want a higher credit allowance because in an ideal world, I would be eliminating my credit allowance after this is done. I recognize that's an unrealistic thing to do, and I need to have that as a backup in case car breaks down or anything, but still, that is where I'm at as far as credit stuff is concerned. Also, how's it going, Swede? So the Keffals stuff, this kind of stuff hits close to home, again, because of that timer up there. Rox then says, we haven't heard anything about mediation. Trashermancer, thank you for resubscribing. For just the cost of several cups of coffee a week, you can help fix the utilities of a grape-flavored slime. The good news is most of my utilities are actually fixed now. Thank fuck. And that's basically been entirely on the backs of everybody in my audience being absolutely fucking wonderful. So thank you.
For just the cost of several cups of coffee a week, you can help fix the utilities of a grape-flavored slime.
There we go. All right. We haven't heard anything about mediation. We haven't gotten confirmation that her application was accepted. We haven't even heard about the letter that she was supposed to receive right away. And all of these things are long past due. But I will now catalog everything we have heard. She then goes on to say the next thing we would hear about the HRTO case was in October of 2023 when the London police concluded an investigation into the sexual assault allegations Keffals made in her applications. And notably, the London police were made aware of the allegation through the media, not HRTO. Ooh, okay. That's not good. The investigation itself is irrelevant. Personally, I'm always skeptical of internal police investigations anyway. What is relevant is when reporting on the investigations end, the London Free Press reached out to Keffals' lawyer for comment and got this. We are unable to comment anything other than to say we will continue to seek justice before the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. Okay. When given a perfect opportunity to update the public on the proceedings of the case, her lawyer gave us no indication the case had progressed at all, not even so much as a confirmation that the application was accepted, despite the fact that it definitely should have been by now. Rox then says the next time she talked about it would be on February 5th, 2024, where she said this. Swede says, have some more pizza. I appreciate that. I cannot get pizza at this hour. Though, if I'm lucky, maybe I'll have time to cook some before I have to go to sleep. But I do appreciate the dono, Swede. I really, really do. She then says, while this may seem like the case has progressed, take two things. One, she claims the process could take a minimum of 2 years. However, we know this isn't true. And then two, she's being vague. So this is the post they're talking about. Keffals saying papers have been processed and we are awaiting dates to appear in the tribunal. I am told this could take a minimum of 2 years at best and 6 years at worst, depending on if this gets escalated to a higher judicial body. The reason I ultimately decided to go through the Human Rights Tribunal rather than a lawsuit, and then she doesn't say anything after that because it's cut off. Okay. Pizza bagels. With pizza on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime. Jesus Christ. She hasn't said the HRTO accepted her application. For example, merely said that papers have been processed. Onigiriya2, thank you for the follow. Even more suspiciously, she deleted this tweet within 7 minutes of posting it. Please excuse my chicken scratch math with screenshots to prove this. Okay. My best guess? Someone told her it was a bad idea to publicly lie about this. Which brings us to the third time she talked about it. Oh wait, that's the last time she ever said any of it. Remember, the deadline for a hearing was a month ago. Also remember, by the time she already long since spent the money allocated for a legal case, and her financials and frequent absences from streaming since going to rehab make it extremely unlikely she can afford to pay a case out of pocket anymore. Altogether, the evidence very strongly indicates that her case with the HRTO died a long time ago, and yet she has continued stringing everyone along, probably in hopes of staving off getting cancelled, as she was clearly aware she was at risk of. This is unacceptable. Also, see you, sweet. Get some sleep. To reiterate, Keffals lied about spending $20,000 on moving and recouping costs, Keffals lied about the remaining $80,000 in a legal fund, and Keffals is lying about the status of the case to this very day to keep people from asking questions about what she did with the money. So what can we do? Well, first, Keffals is clearly uninterested in transparency. We have to take actions ourselves. Here's a link to Keffals' GoFundMe. Everyone who reads this should support a report to the GoFundMe for fraud at this particular link, which you can do if you feel like that is warranted. Next, if you unfortunately are one of the people defrauded by Keffals, you should submit a donor claim here. There's a link here as well. I'm just going to go ahead and provide a link to Rox's thread. If you feel like you need to do so, this is your opportunity to do so. I don't want to steer anybody in that direction, but I do want people to know that that option is available to them. Lastly, you can retweet this thread to raise awareness, or I guess make a YouTube video on it, and hopefully demand financial transparency of Keffals. To conclude, I would like to address Keffals herself. Clara, people trusted you. For years, you said you were fighting for young trans people, for the freedom of your people, and all of it while you were lying to their faces for money that benefited you. Do the right thing. And I think I'm actually going to echo that as well. Like with the entire video that was done on James Somerton, I think if you are in a situation like Keffals is, it shouldn't be that hard to be transparent. Just admit you made a mistake. Just admit you made a mistake. Money mistakes are some of the easiest ones to make, and we have all done that. Every one of us, if you are an adult with an income, you have made a money mistake. Now, this is a money mistake of a particularly large magnitude, and it is associated with a social justice cause, which makes it even worse. But it is still a mistake. And it would be a good idea to let your audience know that you have made that mistake. Doing so would actually earn you more good faith from your audience than just, you know, not. Depraved Ambient says, money mistake doesn't seem equivalent to fraud, though. So for that, we're going to have to actually look at the definition of what is fraud. So fraud, in this case, we're just going to go ahead and use Google Dictionary shit. Wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in personal or financial gain. Now, here's the pieces that are missing for me. The intent. I don't have the intent. Even in everything in Rox's thread, everything that is here, the one thing I am missing is Keffals' intent. And without that, I can't say fraud. I'm not comfortable using the word fraud because I don't know if an intention was there to do the misleading. It could either be that it's not clear if she intended or not, but that means it's not ruled out either. Correct. Correct. Which is why I said at the beginning of the video that is Keffals a bad person? Like, truly, honestly? I don't know. I wish I had a more clear-cut answer for everybody. And who knows, maybe the Mutahar video will change my mind on that. But as of right now, it's a giant question mark for me. There are things that she has done that I do consider heinous and harmful, And many of those things, however, were done while she was heavily under the influence, which she had to go for therapy for. So, like Cherry had to, I have to take that shit with a grain of salt, too. As far as the financial situation, it is a mistake of a massive magnitude. And if she intended that money to be spent on herself from the beginning, then in every way, shape, and form, fraud. If it was a death of 1,000 purchases, though, I don't know if I'd be as comfortable using that word. Shadow Wolf says she defended Shu and Head, calling Xander Hall and Demon Mama pedophiles, or at the very least pedophile defenders. That one I can say is horrible, but I don't remember her doing that. Not because she didn't, but because I didn't see it. I tend to avoid a lot of, like, lefty Twitter drama stuff. So, if she did that, that is horrible, and I would consider that a bad thing. But I don't remember her doing that. Mudahar made a video about Keffals misusing 100K in a GoFundMe donation, something along those lines. So, Mudahar made a video about a lot more than that, but I haven't seen the video yet. And again, one of the reasons I hadn't watched the video yet is I know that there's shit in there that he gets blatantly wrong. So, there is that. But I did want to cover this because while there is a question mark that is leaning very heavily in one direction, there is still a conversation to be had about mismanagement of funds here. And mismanagement of funds specifically being used as a way to leverage the trans and ally communities, potentially for somebody's benefit. Shadow Wolf says it was on Twitter. Xander Hall covered it at least 3 times, and Keffals then went on to make a bunch of videos and live streams just trying to stir the drama, and then deleted her account, and then it was reinstated. It was wild. Yeah, see, I don't... That's probably why I didn't watch it. Once something registers in my brain as, oh, this is lefty drama, I stop caring. It memory holes. It goes away. Said it was a lot over like a month. Yep. So, pre-Mudahara video, the information I have is everything that we went over on this thread, and the personal warnings that were given to me by people who I trust about Keffals and the reasons why. Whatever comes of this, I do not know. But I also don't want to farm drama here. I don't want to give my opinion on this situation and then have it be, for the sake of a better video, firmly in one position so that everybody gets a nice round conclusion on a living, breathing person. I'm not gonna do that. Maybe that's not the better YouTube video, but it does feel like the more honest opinion. I do think Keffals has a lot to apologize for publicly. I don't think she can't be rehabilitated in that way, though. But I guess we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I can't wait to see the 1,200 comments. There's no way I'm even getting that many views on the video. But the 1,200 comments telling me that it was unsatisfying and they feel blue-balled. That's fine. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.